Round here. Overview. After a long winter full of spring magic and other strangenesses, the spring equinox is upon us. The rich and the powerful gather at Anvil to chart the course of the Empire. Urizen spires and guilds of the League, freeborn paradors and Imperial Orc legions all come to Anvil to spend a long weekend of good food, good company and spirited argument. Where the wealthy go, there also go the people who seek their money or their patronage, and the roads of Cassinia are busy with merchants, traders, and peddlers of all kinds. This season, visitors include members of a Tomatsi family wanting to spend time with the Imperial Orcs, heralds of Janon, keen to speak to people about passion, Axu traders in recreational concoctions, Sarkafan Delve's cursed item merchants, and the friends of Eduardo Boschetto, who plan to attend a performance in honour of their late patron and wish to speak about matters relating to exemplars and ambition. There's also a roundup of affairs at the Bourse, both the Ilium seats that will be auctioned and a number of other titles that will be assigned via the tally of the votes. With sceptre, rod and stave. The Tomatsi, the former Orc slaves of the teeming citadels of Axos, have vigorously embraced the opportunities offered by Imperial citizenship. Though they have not all joined the Imperial Orcs nation, more seek out the egregore bond each month. It appears to be primarily the elders of the clan, especially the bone carvers, who have chosen to remain apart. Living almost exclusively in Gildenheim, the Tomatsi have been industrious in raising long halls of brick and pine to house their kin in close proximity. They have been busy too in acquiring crystal mana to employ in working a form of ritual magic that Imperial Orc neighbours note as being far more subdued than their own tradition, akin to a form of dramaturgy that uses the careful retelling of ancestral tales. With the summit approaching, a small group of the Tomatsi, a single family of ritualists and an elder bone carver, have taken to Anvil with the intent to speak with the heroes of their nation. By all accounts, they're particularly interested to get a better understanding of what the Imperial Orcs mean by worth, a concept that doesn't really exist within their own traditions. They're expected to arrive at Anvil around 6 o'clock Saturday evening, and will likely be seeking the Imperial Orcs camp when they arrive. The spark that burns the world. The Empire's relationship with Janon, the Shadowed Flame, has always been a little tempestuous, as befits such a creature. Despite some recent tensions, the notoriously mercurial Eternal seems to have decided that the Empire is once again on its good side. A herald with fire dancing under its skin has visited Anvil some days before the summit to pass on a message in the form of a passionate song that it sings in 4-part harmony with itself. The gist, once interpreted by the attending civil servants, is that Janon is very pleased with the Empire's absolute commitment to the annihilation of slavery and the destruction of the Druge. The Empire's refusal of compromise and embrace of absolute ideological fervour is music to the Night Sword's ears. Filtered from the lyrical flourishes are a few details. A herald or heralds, called the Flame of Virtue, intend to come to the Hall of Worlds at 1 in the afternoon on the Saturday of the Spring Summit. They then intend to adjourn to somewhere with refreshments, somewhere conducive to in-depth conversation. They would quite like to speak to Cahendrin Wordsmith, Dame Aurum de Castellan, Raphael Barossa, and Aracelis y Erigo, all of whom Janon believes are great spokespeople for passion in the Empire. They would also like to speak to representatives of the Imperial Orcs who can discuss their nation's passionate quest to end slavery. When the messenger herald is asked if anyone else can attend, the question is waved away. If people really care about speaking to Janon's representatives, of course they can show up. People who don't care won't bother, and can be safely ignored. The civil service reports with some regret that they were unable to get the herald to disclose any more details about what Janon actually wants before they left. Hopefully, those citizens who meet the Flame of Virtue can get more information from them. There are drugs again. They're back. They have drugs. Evander and Associates are the group of Axu traders hailing from the tunnels of Caban in western Axos, who appear to be making money hand over fist from imperial pleasure seekers intrigued by the novelty of the goods they sell. Despite the ongoing tensions within the Empire and their nation, they show no signs of wanting to lose access to the lucrative market for their recreational fascinating herbal preparations. As before, they plan to sell their wares and negotiate orders with anyone interested in buying from them in bulk. The merchants plan to set up shop outside the forge at around 1 in the afternoon on Saturday, and stay until they have sold all their produce. While they've been a fixture at summits for a while now, not everyone welcomes their presence. A small but vocal group of Marcher traders who may be associated with the market town of Sweetroot in Upwold have been grumbling that people are buying foreign muck when there are much better homegrown narcotics for sale, showing a lack of pride in the Empire. There's also the fact that Galen Embercast, the Cardinal of Vigilance, was worried enough about these concoctions to direct the Silent Bell to investigate them at the autumn equinox. Others point out that the Imperial Conclave discussed whether at least one of their preparations, the infamous Aksu Bone Dust Lao substitute, needed to be interdicted or not, and by all accounts that debate proved inconclusive. If anything, it has fueled interest in some quarters for purchasing the substance so that people can see for themselves what all the fuss is about. Only fools accept hearsay as truth, after all. A cursed demand means a cursed supply. From drugs to relics bearing horrible, horrible curses. Representatives of the Aldersbart family are due to make their 3rd visit to Anvil, bringing with them more relics dredged from the swamps. There's some scuttlebutt that they have started actually buying dreadfully cursed items from other merchants keen to divest themselves of dangerous objects, just so they have plenty of merchandise for their imperial collectors. Following their visits at the winter solstice and autumn equinox last year, they have apparently been banned from a number of inns and wayhouses along the route between Crown's Key and Anvil due to the misfortunate events that seem to follow in their wake. Expect them to arrive at Anvil around 5 in the evening on the Saturday of the summit. They are planning to come to the hub, as they have done on their last 2 visits, to the trepidation of some of the civil servants working there. Blade of Riv. Since leaving Ossium at the Empire's invitation, the Yerende orcs have settled in Solvihil and largely kept themselves to themselves. After generations of keeping secrets from the Druge, they are slow to trust. But if recent events are anything to go by, their reticence may be thawing just a little. They stay on the few hundred acres of farmland they've moved onto, in a quiet valley north of the town, cultivating orc's root and other herbs. While none have thus far become imperial orcs, they are civil when encountered on the road, but they're hardly ever seen on the road at all. Recently, however, news has come of a few Yerende heading east on the Temeshwar Trod, apparently intending to travel to Anvil. They're still unused to being around large numbers of humans, but they have maintained a quiet demeanour, politely rebuffing questions apart from to confirm that they are hoping to visit the Imperial Orc Enclave at the heart of the Empire. There is one exception noted by their fellow travellers. On witnessing an Imperial Orc bone setter wearing the rune of blood stopping to tend to a young Dornish woman who had fractured her leg in a fall, they became quite animated, and asked a number of probing questions about the rune and the Orc's profession as a physic. They are expected to arrive at Anvil around 6 in the evening on Saturday. Abigail and Theodora. Abigail Ashiel and her spouse Theodora Ashiel von Holberg proposed a plan over a year ago to place protective menhirs on the cursed dueling grounds of Holmauer Park. At the winter solstice, Bernhard Kleist von Ennerland, bearer of an imperial wayleave, sought to put those plans into practice. Unfortunately, due to a series of miscommunications and misunderstandings, Bernhard has specified that custodianship of Kleist's winter gardens would be appointed annually by Imperial Bourse auction. Auctioning it brings coin into the Senate budget. We support our empire because we are League, and for the benefit of our beloved city, Holberg. It appears that Theodora and her spouse intended their protections to be used for the benefit of Holberg and the League in a more literal sense, and so the project has stalled. Following further discussion, they have announced they plan to come to Anvil to discuss the misunderstanding with Bernhard and see what resolution can be reached. They're expected to arrive at the hub at around 4 in the afternoon on Saturday, and hope to meet von Ennerland there. The Friends of Eduardo Boschetto. Yes, he was a terrible producer, awful director, and his performances were an endeavour in overacting. But we all got our big breaks because of him. He lived his dream of owning his own theatre and writing and performing his own plays, and he never let his lack of ability or talent stop him from trying. He helped so many people get a start in the theatre industry, and many went on to greater things. I don't think ambition is about ability, skill, or talent, but it's about striving to achieve your dreams and your goals, and aiding others to do the same as well. Luca d'Estrella di Tassato Rigario, friend of Edoardo Boschetto. The late Edoardo Boschetto di Tassato Rigario was an infamous theatre owner and producer in Tassato, famed for his awful plays and productions. While he lacked any talent or ability, he made up for it with boundless enthusiasm and passion for the theatre. As the famous impresario Mario Hortensio di Tassato Mestre once quipped, "In this business you can make up for almost everything with a big heart, a big smile, and a big pouch of money." Edoardo's passing last year has been mourned by many within the theatre industry in Tassato. Although the theatrical world being what it is, this grief has been largely overshadowed by the recent demise of the thespian Cosmo, an actor so egotistical they dropped the appellation von Savos because they felt it wasn't needed, who was as famous for the aggressive militancy of their fans as for their actual acting ability. Regardless, the friends of Edoardo Boschetto have engaged Eurybia Melampus di Tassata of the Peacock's Tail Theatre to stage an adaptation of the would-be playwright's work in honour of his passing. Some of the friends intend to attend the performance, obviously, but they also have other business. Some of them are quoting a statement of principle raised last year by Alessio Sognatore, which received some support in the League National Assembly. As a consequence of this, they are interested in speaking to Viviane de Curdefer, or someone speaking on her behalf, to discuss the recognition of a man who supported so many others to prosper in the arts. Participation. Characters associated with the theatre are encouraged to make up their own stories about Edoardo Boschetto di Tassato Rigario if they wish. The larger-than-life figure was relentless in encouraging people, even people with no talent, to embrace the life of the stage. He often used money or connections to help people get their big break. His own productions, however, were often marked by almost farcical misadventure, such as a performance of his self-penned adaptation of The Sale of Savos, which saw the entire theatre flooded due to some over-enthusiastic special effects, or the universally panned Malum in Winter, which saw so many actors on stage during a climactic battle scene that the entire stage collapsed, sending over 24 thespians to the hospital with broken bones. At the Bourse. Out of character note. For those interested, the Imperial Elections entry for each previous event found on the recent history page gives an indication of how much a Bourse seat was auctioned for last time it was appointed, and also how many votes won a seat appointed via the tally of the votes. Imperial Auction. The remaining Imperial Ilium seat, Cyrene's Wisdom, will be auctioned during the spring equinox. Any imperial citizen can hold such a title if they can raise sufficient capital. The Rigario dossier and the Master of the Imperial Mint will also be auctioned, although both are League national positions, meaning only League citizens may bid for or hold these titles. Once the Master of the Mint is appointed, Auditor of the Imperial Treasury Gerard Lassalle will arrange an appointment to discuss imperial finances with them. And once the Rigario dossier is appointed, Marta Vaskovich Kovar will deliver their annual report. This season also sees the auction of 2 titles that do not provide Bourse seats, but still come with lucrative benefits. The Seer of the Spiral Sword title grants custodianship of the only Imperial Rune Forge, which allows the unique ability to develop new magic items. There is also the title of Cruiden Kenna Trademaster, which grants control of the Cruiden Kenna Mochagene, and the ability to purchase large amounts of herbs from the Sarkovan Delves. Both Bearer of an Imperial Wayleave titles, special Imperial titles that allow the holder to commission a sinecure, ministry or great work before the end of the equinox, will be offered for auction. The Speaker's office reminds citizens that their door is always open to anyone unfamiliar with how the Senate rules on commissioning work, who wants advice on what kind of necessary details are needed to maximise the chances of the process going smoothly. Outside of Senate sessions, they are generally found at the Civil Service Hub, as with most other civil servants. The Rogue Declaration will be auctioned for Crystal Manor. The Arbiter of the Rogue Declaration grants authority to raise a single declaration of their choice to the conclave agenda for the Saturday evening session. Civil servants will be able to advise whoever purchases the title as to how they can use it, but remind citizens it is important to remember that the Arbiter must present their declaration themselves, and that it is an imperial title. It cannot be held by someone who already has an imperial title, nor can someone who already has an imperial title serve as a proxy. The public auction will also see the Prosperity Dose of True Liao auctioned, with all funds raised going to the Imperial Synod Virtue Fund. Tally of the votes. In addition to the imperial positions offered for public auction, there are a number of national positions that are available to be appointed during the coming summit. In each case, any citizen who controls an appropriate personal resource is eligible to cast their vote for their preferred candidate. Voting opens on Saturday morning and closes Saturday afternoon around 4 p.m, shortly after the auction of the seats is completed. 4 national bourse seats providing Ilium are due to be appointed this season. The Regario dossier has already been mentioned. It is auctioned to League citizens. The other 3 are the Gift of the Dwindling Star, appointed by Varushkan owners of mines and forests, the Steel Fist, appointed by Imperial Orc military unit commanders who have supported Imperial armies in the last year, and the new Cerevado Nets are appointed by Freeborn fleet owners. The new resource represents a bold decision to steal the old Scorero nets from out under the nose of the Grendel governor of Feroz, and there is a lot of interest in who will be the first person to oversee them. In addition to the bourse seats, this spring will see the appointment of a number of other titles. Imperial Orcs will determine the new holder of the Bonesetter of Torfast trading post, the Steward of the Mines of Gulhul, and the Preceptor. Appointment is determined by Imperial Orcs who control a military unit, and the number of votes they receive depends not only on the size of the unit, but on how many times it has supported an Imperial army in the last year. League business owners will be able to appoint the Custodian of the Assayers Guild, able to buy large amounts of metal from League and Varushkan miners. Varushkan mine and forest owners have a say in who will become Custodian of the Ivosgard docks, buying herbs from Sarkafan, and will also be appointing the first Merchant Boyar of the Bittershore, buying large amounts of metals and forest resources from the docks at Kostias Respite. Highguard congregation leaders will determine who becomes Bursar of the House of Spirits and gains the ability to purchase Ilium from virtuous citizens. Urizen citizens who own mana sites will appoint the Keymaster of the Elosian docks, who purchases white granite from Aksu traders. The freeborn fleet owners will have a chance to appoint the first Maracossa Sendito, able to buy unique magic items from the Maracossan exiles, as well as the Vizier of the Incarnadine Satchel, whose main power since the occupation of Feroz is to be custodian of the missing Incarnadine Satchel. The Wintermark military unit owners will be able to appoint the Talon of Kaupahal, a merchant able to purchase both Ilium and white granite from the virtuous. In each case, any imperial citizen of the appropriate nation can be appointed to hold the title, not just those eligible to vote.